What's up, guys? So I recently got my M17 Milsig marker. I got the CQC version because it had the polymer body, lighter weight and whatnot. And like any good Milsim player out there, I went right ahead and upgraded all the little accessories that come with the gun, including the rail, the flip-up sights, the front and back. Both of these are fake. Have no need for real ones. The pistol grip, this one is legit MacBull, as well as the angle grip. As you can probably guess from the look of my gun, I'm trying to go with this MacBull FDE look to it. And one of the last things I needed to complete the look of my gun was, of course, the stock. Now, as you can see, not only does the color not match, but the design of it doesn't even look like a MacBull, right? So I looked for it everywhere, couldn't find it, so decided to make my own. So I wanted to make this video to teach you guys how to make your very own stock, regardless of whether you're going with the MacBull design or any other stock. The basic concept of it is going to be the same. And I just want to show you how easy it is to make your very own tactical stock. Well, the first thing you notice when you take a look at your stock is that it actually looks just like a real one. The only difference being where the buffer tube would go is, of course, a giant hole, and that is to be able to accommodate the tank. However, the locking mechanism and the pin inside of it are the exact same size. So in theory, you should still be able to use any stock out there, just as long as you manage to somehow fit the air tank through it. Just a little comparison, the one from my Alpha Black is a little bit more realistic in size, and as you'll notice, it also has the exact same design. But you'll see right here that the buffer tube size is much smaller because it doesn't have an air tank inside of it. So basically we're just gonna be making the hole bigger in order to fit the tank while keeping the rest of the stock the same. So I went ahead and bought this MacBull stock. As you can see, it's not real. I mean, I figured I was gonna be cutting it up. I didn't want to be messing up a real one before I actually knew it worked. So we're gonna take that new stock and we're gonna make the buffer tube hole a little bit bigger, 2-inch in diameter, in order to be able to fit the tank through it. We're gonna be doing that by putting in a piece of PVC pipe, and we're gonna be welding it together, and at the end we're gonna sand it and paint it to match the color of your gun. The main tool that I used was this Dremel 4000. I used this to cut from the PVC to the stock, all kinds of sanding and stuff like that. This one came with all this kind of good stuff. You can still do this with a saw, it's just gonna take you a little bit longer and you're just gonna have to be a little bit more careful. But if you have a rotary tool, then you're in luck. The second thing you're gonna need is some kind of plastic putty. Just make sure that it's sandable and waterproof. I went ahead and got the JB Wells for plastic. This next item is optional. It's just a file set that I picked up for really cheap, so it's gonna help you round out the edges, and it's just gonna go a little bit faster than just regular sandpaper. But you can still use sandpaper just the same. Last but definitely not least, you're gonna be needing your PVC pipe. This is the 2-inch in diameter. You can pick this up for about $5 for the 2 feet length, and as you can see right here, the 2-inch pipe is just exactly the right diameter for the tank. It fits right in. There's even less gap than with the original stock, so this is pretty good. The only downside to it is that as you can see, it's pretty thick around the edges, but it should still work fine. So it's just gonna give it a beefier look to it. Should be alright. The first thing we're gonna do is to remove the top part of the stock. We're gonna do this by cutting a straight line from the front of the stock all the way to the rubber part. And we're gonna try to cut it as straight as possible because this is basically where the PVC pipe is gonna be sitting on top of. Basically like a cradle, so it'll keep it nice and firm. At this point, don't worry if it looks a little rough or maybe your line is not as straight as possible. As long as it's kind of straight, it should still work. We're gonna be coming back and sanding it later on. One of the things that I noticed in this particular stock is that the rubber part at the end is not flat, so I had to come back and just kind of sand it down, file it down, use the Dremel, and just basically the point is to make it completely flat so that basically the bottom of the tank will sit flush to the rubber part once it goes through the PVC pipe. So I went back and finished it off with this carving tip for the Dremel as well as some of the files, and the point is to make it as smooth as possible, smooth out all the edges and make sure that everything's flush, to the point that you can just slide the PVC and it should hit no snags or any rough spots or anything like that. This particular piece that I'm using is a mistake that I made. I cut it, as you can see, too short, but I'm just gonna be cutting another piece and fixing it. So I went ahead and cut another piece of PVC. This time it's the right measurement, so as you can see it's flush on both ends. So as you'll notice, I've also gone ahead and traced basically where the stock meets the PVC, and this is just to give us an idea of where we're gonna be applying the JB weld, because in order for it to get a good hold, you have to roughen up the edges. If you're familiar with stuff like clay, in order to put two pieces of clay together, you have to roughen up the edges, and that'll give them a better hold. So JB weld is basically the same thing. It's like clay. We're gonna be mixing it together, roughening up the edges, and that'll give us a better grip. Yeah. Just to show you guys a little bit of what I did to roughen up the edges on my stock, I took my Dremel tool and basically just did a bunch of little lines wherever the PVC was going to meet with the stock. Take this chance to go ahead and sand down the whole PVC pipe so that it's rough enough to be painted. So you can see it'll be good enough when it loses its shine, as opposed to this one on the right that's not sanded. So I went ahead and did the same thing with the PVC pipe with the groups. However, I did make a mistake, as you'll notice right here. When you look through the vent holes, you're gonna be able to see those cuts. So that was my mistake. So make sure that you pay attention to that kind of thing. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and fill it up with JB weld and sand it down and hopefully hide it afterwards. So just watch out for that. Pay attention to the design of your particular stock and try to avoid my mistake. We are now ready to start messing with the JB weld. Word of warning, it smells absolutely disgusting. Another thing I want to point out, I'm not wearing gloves or whatever, is that it is known in the state of California to cause cancer. However, we are in Texas here, so we're good. Alright, moving on. It basically comes in two different colors. The inside of the paste is some kind of whitish looking, and then the outside of it's a little bit grayer. So you're gonna mix it all until it's one even color. It'll look like this. It's pretty sticky, so you're just gonna be rolling it up into little tubes like that, little strips of JB weld, and we're gonna be sticking it on the PVC. The rough edges that we made should be able to be filled with the JB weld, and it should look fine. Here you can see that I already just pressed it together. That was good enough. As you can see through the vents, I went ahead and fixed it, so hopefully it won't be as obvious once we paint it. Next thing we're gonna do right now is to basically follow that contour line and where the PVC meets the stock, so that it doesn't look like we put it together basically. So we're gonna be filling in the edges with more JB weld and make it look like it's one seamless, piece of stock. So by filling out the gaps like this, we're gonna make it seem like it's one piece of solid molded plastic, and you won't be able to tell that it's actually a PVC pipe stuck on a stock. So after you've applied, just be generous with it a little bit, because we're gonna be coming back and sanding it and making it look smoother. As you can see right now, you just get the basic general shape, and then we can come back and sand it down. The more you sand it, the better it'll look. So we'll just come back and fix it up some more before we go ahead and paint it. I do want to point out that the JP weld takes about 3 hours to cure. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it overnight before I start sanding it, but just know that it takes at least 3 hours for it to harden and be able to sand. So we're gonna leave it overnight and come back to it later. So good morning everyone. It's daylight outside, so we are ready to test fit it. At this point, since it's been cured overnight, it's solid, so you should be able to put it in without breaking it or anything like that. Um, You'll notice on the back that the tank is very flush to the back, and even the butt plate covers it up a little bit, so it looks a little bit more legit. Um, I'm rocking a Ninja 13 psi tank with a Pro V2, so you'll notice that it's just the right fit for it. So it looks really nice. Um, Next thing to do now is to go ahead and sand it, make it look, see all those rough edges right there. It'll be fine. Stock still works. The pin does go down. Um, this thing is a Chinese knockoff, so that doesn't really do anything. But you can still adjust it just fine, and it's pretty solid. In order to get the retention bar through the stock, you had to push the pin all the way down. So I had to use it like this metal thing to push the pin all the way down and allow the bar to slip through. After that though, you could adjust it just as normal. So at this point we're almost at the finish line. Uh, Basically you just need to add the finishing touches, polish it, make it look as pretty as you can, and depending on the time and patience that you have, it'll separate your stock from looking, I don't know, DIY to factory made. So the more time you spend on it, the more time you sand it, the better it'll look once you paint it. I'm kind of in a rush because I need it for a big game by this weekend, so I just went ahead and did a quick sanding. I taped off the buttstock so that when I paint it, I'll keep that same black color. But other than that, it should be ready to go. So yeah. So I went ahead and primed it black, thinking that a darker base would make my tan color spray a little bit more closer to the FDE look from MacBull. It really didn't, but it still worked out just the same. So my recommendation, try using a lighter color primer just so that when you scuff it up, during playtime, it won't be as obvious. But it worked out okay. I realized I forgot to show you guys the ones or the brands that I got. I got this Rust-Oleum Auto Primer, and then I got this camouflage tan looking color, which doesn't really match the MacBull color, but it's close enough, I guess. Well, alright, so just to give you guys a side-by-side comparison, you'll notice that they're pretty much the same size. Um, the only difference being this little butt pad goes up into the tank. I actually kind of like this because it makes it a little bit more comfortable to shoulder the weapon. So that's kind of cool when you're aiming down the sides. But yeah, everything still works. It looks awesome. Um, if you'll notice right here, the you can see the color difference a little bit better, but it should be fine once it gets a little bit dirtied up and some battle scars or whatever. It should be fine. So there you go. That's how to make your very own tactical stock, and hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys find better ways to do this, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching and all that stuff. Alright, okay, bye.